Hi everyone, my name is Jake Qureshi, and this is my final project for the Web GIS course. Today I'll be walking you through the Web GIS application I've created, entitled the MCW Medical College of Wisconsin Anesthesia Resident Relocation Guide. This is a web-based tool I made to help anesthesia residents moving to the Milwaukee area find a new place to live. This project combines elements from Survey 123, ArcGIS Online, Experience Builder, and StoryMaps to create a live, interactive resource for a residency program. This is the disclaimer that we use to, let people know that this is a school project and not a real guide. Although I do have permission from our faculty to make an actual guide using WebGIS to make this a real thing for our program. So why a guide? For those of you who are not familiar with the residency match, every spring, fourth year medical students gather from around the country to experience something called the match. They rank their programs that they would like to do postgraduate training at, and the programs rank them. And a computer algorithm spits out a list, and residents do not find out until the second or third week of March where they are moving to start work in July, which means that incoming medical residents, have only about 3, 4 months to figure out where they're moving, and logistically less than that to plan, getting a lease and moving and get everything going to start work on July 1st. And that doesn't include orientation in June for many programs. So really, residents have about 2 months to figure out where they're moving, which isn't a lot of time, especially if you're relocating cities or states. In the pediatrics program at the Medical College of Wisconsin, we have a PDF, as you can see here, that is used to help us kind of figure out where incoming residents want to live and what areas they might want to be in, which is a great tool. As a combined resident in pediatrics and anesthesiology, I use this guide to help me figure out where I was going to live in the city. But I wanted to make sure that we had something that was good for anesthesia too. And instead of building a flat PDF guide, I thought, why not use, GIS and use that to make something that was a little bit more interactive. So, to get started, I was planning on just doing a, random survey like we do, using Microsoft Edge or SurveyMonkey or something like that. But then we learned about Survey 123 this semester, which is just such a cool tool. Um, and so we use Survey 123 to capture um, either the address of the apartment complex, since that isn't the actual unit someone lives in, or the neighborhood or zip code for people who live in houses, the type of house they live in, whether or not the person living there has pets or childcare needs, how they commute to work, what year of training they're in. And the very cool thing about this being in Survey 123 is, as you know, it gets updated as people fill out surveys. And so instead of building a CSV document and formatting the addresses for however people put their address in, and then updating it and uploading it constantly. It just live updates, which makes things a lot easier for me and makes this project sustainable over time. And so with the live integration, on the data tab of Survey 123, it updates constantly with people who are filling out their surveys, and it geocodes it directly, which cuts a lot of workflow out for me. And, having that fully cloud-based system using Web GIS really makes this a lot more feasible for someone who doesn't do this full time and doesn't have a lot of time to go back and, muck with the system. For the data layers themselves, the resident houses are obtained from the Survey 123 results and geocoded through that system. The training sites, I just opened a WebGIS map and used the sketch feature to put in the addresses of our four main training sites as interns. That includes the Children's Hospital, the Medical College of Wisconsin, the VA Medical Center, and then St. Luke's Aurora, which is the county hospital. Um, But that is just where we live and where the hospitals are. And while that's important information, I thought a little bit other, useful background information would be helpful. So I went to county resources for Milwaukee County and found the boundaries for the neighborhoods in Milwaukee and then the municipalities that surround it. The main two training sites for our program are in the city of Wauwatosa, which is just outside of Milwaukee, in Milwaukee County. And so there's a lot of communities in that area that would be helpful for residents to know. We also found really interesting resources for people, like where the parks are, where trails are. For those who have children, what school district you move into is really important. Um, Not everyone has a car when they move here, although most people do or get one soon after. Um, but knowing where the bus routes are, since the buses do go to the hospitals, are also important information for people. Milwaukee County and Wauwatosa, where the hospital is just next door to the nearby county of Waukesha. And so we do have residents who live in Menominee Falls, who live in Brookfield, and who live in Delafield and Pewaukee. And so I figured having the information for those centers would be also useful information for residents. And then the last field is a look at commute times, which I built using geoprocessing tools. To prepare the data, it was actually so much easier than typical. Typically, when I've done other GIS projects, I have to clean the CSV, change the formatting from in and north to just one of them, or change the boulevard spelled out and BLVD to just one of them to get it geocoded. But using Survey 123, that wasn't necessary. And so there was actually very little data prep that had to go into this. Once the data was uploaded into ArcGIS, we needed to find a system that would be easy to be symbolized and for intuitive reading of these maps, since the people who are consuming the maps are not people familiar with GIS. And so, while this dashboard look is very intense, it had to be something that was easier for people to see and find meaning from. Which brings us to Experience Builder. And so rather than just consuming raw maps, one, the purpose of this course is to use Experience Builder. But for people using this application, I wanted something that was nicely customizable to us, to the color scheme that we use at the Medical College of Wisconsin, and to views that would be easy for people who have no background in GIS to find valuable information from and to be able to use that information to make decisions for their lives. So in doing this, there were some core features that we were asked to put in. For the actual application, I'm not going to have an editing layer because I do not want people editing the maps. But for this one, I put in an editing functionality, geocoding services for people to use and search and then geoprocessing. So I use the commute times, which I'll show you a little bit later. Um, Other widgets I put in, there's a filter so you can sort by, say, training level. So if you want to know where the interns live, since interns rotate through another hospital than the rest of the um, residents, you can sort by intern. Or if you just want to look at apartments, or if you just want to look at people who own homes, so that filter option's there. There's a chart with a list of all the data. There's a slide which we use to look at amenities. So if you want to compare pools versus EV chargers, or if you want to compare owned homes versus rented homes, I've done a slide feature. And then finally, the legend and widgets. Or used for the data exploration. For commute zones, I split them into 5, 10, 15, 20, and 30-minute commutes based on the hospitals themselves, and where the resident homes are. So if you say, I'm moving to this new city, I don't want to commute far, you can look in the 5, 10-minute commute zone and see where do people live in this area? Who are the houses? Who are the apartments? What are some places I might want to live? Or if you say, I really like the community of Delafield, how far is it from the hospital? Well, you can see it's still within the 30-minute commute zone to the hospital. And so you kind of get an idea of, either looking where are people and where do I want to be, or where do I want to be and how far is it from the hospitals. So I wanted something that would be useful and practical, and something that can eventually be integrated into our website at the Medical College of Wisconsin. So if you go to our website, this is the anesthesiology page. Um, there's lots of information for those who are applying, information on who current residents are, and we have a page. MICWA is the Medical College of Wisconsin affiliated hospitals. That's our actual employer, where they give us housing and rental information. And on this page, there's things like Apartment Advisor, Realtor.com, real estate links. And so I'd like to see this application added there eventually as a way for people who are moving to Wisconsin to kind of figure out where they want to be. Here are some of my references for the project. And then I wanted to share the project with you itself. Um, so if you will bear with me just one moment, we'll open it up. So here's the residency guide. We enter, and it goes straight to a dashboard. And that dashboard has a good overview of what we are looking at for the project. It talks about our training sites, and there's information about the sites, and it links you to more information about where they are and what they offer. It gives you a running count of how many people have filled out the survey, so 19 to date, looking for more. If you want to know more about the individual locations, you can look at the table here. The individual sites have been updated. So if you want to know where people are living, you can click and find information about them. You can edit the map, and then that's just a legend of the map. So you can tell what's going on. On the second page, we have different neighborhoods in the area. And so Wauwatosa is where the hospital actually is in Milwaukee County, which Milwaukee County are in green, and we have Waukesha County in brown. You can see West Allis, which is actually the town that I live in, and so on. And so I really liked the sidecar view in StoryMaps, so I wanted to create something that was similar to that. You can also look at apartments versus homes and see who has an EV charger versus a pool. Chargers in green, obviously, for charging, and pools are blue. And then I like to say that I had houses and apartment owned and rented, but there wasn't really enough data to make a meaningful slide. So I just left this in for now, but I'll make that a functional slide when I'm ready with data. And then finally, I just put in the disclaimer here so that anyone coming into the project will know that this is not a live thing for this page. Anyways, that's a little bit about my project. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to learning about yours. Thanks.